yourselves. You don't share too much empathy for King Van's mom. Can you tell us why? She knew her son was a killer. My mother had 2 sons who committed murder, and we wasn't raised to kill people. So I say, why would I have sympathy for a woman who been silent for her murderous son, who ain't got no empathy for them victims? Right is right and wrong is wrong. Black people. The confrontation that's breaking the internet right now shows a grieving mother defending her deceased child against a man who's been relentlessly attacking his memory and questioning her parenting. Charleston White has been going viral for months, calling King Von Rap's first serial killer, and saying his mother should be ashamed for supporting a murderer instead of speaking out against his alleged crimes. But when she finally faced him down in this viral footage, the whole dynamic changed. This ain't just another internet beef. This is about a mother's pain colliding with street justice advocacy in the most public way possible. Charleston White built his entire platform on exposing what he calls the demon that was King Von, even going as far as sending money to took his mother to trademark her dead son's name because of how much King Von and other rappers disrespected the 15-year-old's memory. King Von is one of the only few demons we done seen die who professed out of his mouth. Now, King Von's mother is fighting back, and the footage is going crazy on every social media platform. The confrontation shows months of built-up tension exploding into a face-to-face argument that has the entire hip-hop community choosing sides. King Von wasn't just another Chicago rapper who died young and got mythologized after death. According to street sources, FBI documents, and his own admissions in music, Van was connected to at least 7 murders before he ever stepped into a recording studio. He represented something unprecedented in hip-hop, a rapper who wasn't just talking about street life or entertainment, but someone who had actually lived out every violent bar he ever spit. But here's what really went down with his legal situation. King Von didn't just beat one murder case through good lawyering. He beat multiple serious charges because witnesses kept ending up dead and co-defendants mysteriously changed their testimonies at crucial moments. His final murder case in 2017 should have put him away for life. The prosecutors had witness testimony. They had a co-defendant ready to testify against him, and they had evidence linking him to the crime scene. Then everything fell apart. The key witness who was supposed to testify against Vaughn suddenly disappeared before trial. His co-defendant, who had been cooperating with prosecutors and was ready to implicate Vaughn in exchange for a plea deal, suddenly recanted his statement and refused to testify. With their case crumbling, prosecutors had no choice but to let Vaughn walk free. He literally walked out of that courthouse and went straight to the recording studio to make music about beating murder cases. This pattern of witnesses disappearing and co-defendants changing their stories wasn't accidental. It was part of a systematic intimidation campaign that allowed Vaughn to escape justice multiple times. Charleston White saw this pattern, and it became central to his argument about why the hip-hop community shouldn't be celebrating King Von as some kind of authentic street legend. The beef between Charleston White and King Von's legacy didn't start when Von died in November 2020. It started when Charleston realized that the streets, the industry, and fans worldwide were celebrating what he saw as a legitimate serial killer who had managed to rebrand himself as an authentic rapper. After King Von's death, Charleston White launched an all-out campaign that went far beyond typical internet commentary. In his explosive video titled, "King Von was a demon and lulled him as Moses," Charleston made statements that shocked even people familiar with his controversial style. Anytime demons die, it's an act of God because can't nobody kill a demon, Charleston declared. He one of only demons, and he was a powerful demon. A demon is too powerful to be killed by a regular human. That's why demons are terrorizing everybody, and not many demons are dying. King Von is one of the only demons we done seen die who profess out of his own mouth. The Bible says what's in your heart, they're going to come out of your mouth. He said, "I'm a demon, man. I'm on demon time." But Charleston didn't stop there. He called Lil Tim, the man who shot and killed King Von, a modern-day Moses sent by God to eliminate evil. When I look at Lil Tim, I see him at peace. I see a peaceful man. I don't see no man stressing and worrying. God got a level of protection around him. He's untouchable because he'd done the act of removing the demon force. One of Satan's greatest soldiers was King Vaughn. The Bible says what's in your heart. It going to come out of your mouth. He said, "I'm a demon, man. I'm on demon time." According to Charleston's interview with Jut, his decision to target the mothers of deceased rappers came from A, spiritual calling. God put in my spirit that one of the most powerful voices in the black community is the black mother. Charleston explained, "When you go to the prisons, when you go to the jail houses, when you go to juvenile facilities, when you go to funeral homes, when you go to court, you don't see the homeboys nowhere in the vicinity. It's all mothers and grandmothers." Charleston's strategy was deliberate. He wanted to force a conversation about accountability by targeting the one group that communities typically protect, grieving mothers. But he specifically focused on mothers who he believed had enabled their sons' criminal behavior through silence and unconditional support. One of Charleston White's most controversial and effective moves was his decision to help Tooka's mother trademark her son's name. This wasn't just symbolic. It was a direct attack on the entire drill music industry's practice of disrespecting dead children for entertainment value. Sean L. Tooka Gregory was only 15 years old when he was gunned down at a bus stop in January 2011. According to Charleston White's research into the case, Tooka wasn't a gang member or a threat to anyone. He was a regular kid who had just won a wrestling match at school. Tooka was a 15-year-old kid that got killed after a wrestling match he won. Charleston explained in his interview about the Mother's Campaign. He got suspended from school because he got into it with a teacher. Tooka was on the bus stop, getting ready to come home with two girls before he got killed. He had just called his mother. "Mama, I got home. I won my wrestling match. I'm on my way home." Charleston contrasted Tooka's innocence with the way King Vaughn and other old block rappers turned his name into the ultimate disrespect. What kid gets suspended from school and calls home and says, "Mom, I'm on my way home. If I get suspended, my mom going to find out later tonight, but I'm not going to call and say, 'Mama, I'm home.'" He was a different kind of kid. But King Vaughn and other Chicago rappers made smoking on Tooka the most disrespectful phrase in drill music. Every time they said it in songs that got millions of views, they were mocking a dead child in front of his grieving mother who had spent over a decade begging for the disrespect to stop. Charleston's decision to help Tooka's mother trademark the name was strategic warfare against the drill music industry. If successful, it would mean that every time a rapper said smoking on Tooka in a song or video, Tooka's mother would be entitled to compensation. It was a way of flipping the script and giving power back to the victim's family. Every time they say, "smoking on Tooka," they're mocking a dead child in front of his grieving mother, Charleston said. So I connected with Tooka's mother and said, "Let's trademark that name so every time they say it, you get paid instead of them profiting off your pain." The situation escalated dramatically when Charleston White started doing interviews specifically calling out King Van's mother for what he characterized as enabling behavior that allowed her son to continue killing people. In his most direct attack, Charleston compared King Van's mother to his own mother, who had dealt with sons who committed murder. She knew her son was a killer, Charleston said about Van's mother. "My mother had two sons who committed murder, and we wasn't raised to kill people. My brother serving a 114-year sentence for a murder he committed at the age of 17. Charleston's argument was that his own mother never made excuses for her son's crimes, never stayed silent about their actions, and always demanded accountability. "My mother publicly spoke out and say, 'I don't condone this. My mother taught us that silence is a form of agreement.'" He contrasted this with what he saw as King Van's mother's complicity through silence. "King Van mama been silent. I've never seen her speak out. She'd been silent. My mother said, 'Son, silence is a form of agreement. You killed somebody. You in agreement with this?' No, ma'am." Charleston went even further, describing specific ways his mother held her sons accountable. "One time, the police came to the house with a warrant looking for me. My mama didn't say, 'No, let me see the warrant.' She didn't lie. There's a difference. I know good women, good mothers. Good mothers don't condone wrong. The most devastating part of Charleston's argument was his claim that King Vaughn's mother should have spoken out not just for accountability, but for the sake of the victims' families. So that happening for Vaughn, like they was excited. They was happy to tell because they know Vaughn going to make sure everybody's straight. Why would I have sympathy for a woman who been silent for her murderous son, who ain't got no empathy for them victims? Right is right and wrong is wrong. Black people, we got to get back to that. No matter how we feel about who wrong, mama wrong, mama wrong. Central to Charleston White's entire argument against King Vaughn and his mother was his insistence that Vaughn wasn't just another street rapper. He was a legitimate serial killer who happened to pick up a microphone. Charleston repeatedly cited the FBI's definition of serial killing: someone who murders more than 3 people in separate incidents with cooling-off periods between crimes, often motivated by psychological gratification rather than just survival or money. Van tweeted regularly about his desire to kill, bragged about having committed specific murders in his music, which attracted him international attention, and made millions off songs about murdering rivals. Charleston argued, the FBI also points out that serial killers often target victims who have something in common. Vaughn only killed young black men and women from his own community. Charleston's research into King Vaughn's alleged crimes revealed a pattern that went beyond typical gang violence. King Vaughn has officially been implicated in 4 murders, 2 where he was suspected, but police didn't have enough evidence to charge in one case where he narrowly received a not guilty verdict after a key witness disappeared. But the total number was much higher according to Charleston's investigation. In total, there's over 10 murders that King Vaughn has been connected over the years, and nobody has looked into all of them in great detail until now. Charleston argued that what separated Vaughn from other gangsters was a psychological satisfaction he seemed to derive from killing and the public nature of his bragging. King Vaughn frequently exhibited behavior that conformed with serial killer characteristics, tweeting regularly about his desire to kill, bragging about specific murders for attention, and making millions from his drill anthems about murdering rivals. For months, King Vaughn's mother had remained silent while Charleston White systematically attacked her son's memory and questioned her parenting on national platforms. According to sources close to the family, she had been advised by friends and family members to ignore Charleston's provocations and not give him more attention. But Charleston's campaign wasn't just attacking King Vaughn. It was specifically targeting her as an enabling mother who had allowed her son to become a killer through her silence and unconditional support. The attacks became increasingly personal and harder to ignore. The breaking point came when Charleston began involving other families in making direct comparisons between King Vaughn's mother and the mothers of his alleged victims. Charleston's message was clear. She had chosen to protect her killer's son while ignoring the pain of families whose children had been murdered. The confrontation that's now going viral shows the moment months of built-up frustration finally exploded into direct conflict. The footage, which appears to have been taken at a public event, shows King Van's mother approaching Charleston White with obvious anger and demanding that he stop disrespecting her dead son. "You don't know what kind of mother I was," she can be heard saying in the viral clip. "You don't know what I went through trying to keep my son alive in those streets. You don't know the conversations I had with him or the things I tried to do." Her voice carries the pain of a mother who has not only lost her child, but has had to watch that child's memory be dissected and attacked publicly for months. She's not just defending her son's actions. She's defending her right as a mother to love her child regardless of his alleged crimes. But Charleston White wasn't backing down or showing any sympathy. According to witnesses at the scene, he responded directly and without softening his message. "Your son was a killer, and you stayed silent while he murdered other people's babies. Where was your voice when he was taking other mothers' children? You want sympathy for your pain, but what about the mothers of his victims?" The viral footage shows several key moments that reveal the deeper dynamics at play in this situation. When King Vaughn's mother first approaches Charleston, you can see months of pent-up grief and frustration in her body language. She's not just angry, she's hurt by what she sees as unnecessary attacks on her family during their time of mourning. Charleston's response reveals his core philosophy about accountability and victim advocacy. He doesn't show any willingness to soften his message out of respect for her grief, because in his view, Her grief doesn't erase the grief of the families whose children were allegedly killed by her son. The exchange becomes heated when King Von's mother argues that Charleston doesn't understand what she went through as a mother trying to keep her son alive in a dangerous environment. Her argument is that she was fighting for her son's life, not enabling his crimes. Charleston's counterargument is that fighting for your child's life and holding them accountable for their actions aren't mutually exclusive. According to witnesses, he told her, "I fought for my brother's life too, but I never stayed silent about his crimes." Love don't mean you co-sign murder. The confrontation also reveals a cultural divide between different approaches to dealing with children who commit crimes. King Van's mother represents one school of thought, unconditional maternal love, and support regardless of circumstances. Charleston represents another, tough love that includes accountability and acknowledgement of victims. This confrontation represents much more than just a personal dispute between Charleston White and King Van's mother. It's emblematic of a larger cultural war over how hip-hop culture deals with violence, accountability, and the glorification of criminal behavior. Charleston White has built his entire platform on challenging what he sees as the toxic aspects of drill music culture. He argues that the genre has created a system where real killers are celebrated as authentic artists while their victims are forgotten or even mocked. When did black people start riding with demons? Charleston asked in one of his most viral videos. We got grandmothers who pray, mothers who say, "Son, bless your food before you eat it." So, I'm looking at this and everybody is siding with King Von. What about these victims over here who nobody's shining the light on? Charleston's criticism extends beyond just King Von to the entire ecosystem that celebrated him. He's particularly critical of the music industry, media outlets, and fans who promoted King Van's music without acknowledging the real-world consequences of the violence he allegedly committed. But King Von supporters, including his mother, see Charleston's attacks as unfair and disrespectful. They argue that regardless of what Von may have done in the streets, he was also a talented artist who provided for his family and community. They see Charleston's approach as unnecessarily harsh toward a grieving family. The divide reflects broader questions about redemption, accountability, and the responsibility of communities when their members commit crimes. Charleston's position is that accountability must come first, even in grief. King Von supporters argue that love and support for family members doesn't equal endorsement of their worst actions. The viral confrontation between King Van's mother and Charleston White has generated millions of views and tens of thousands of comments across social media platforms. The response has been deeply divided with roughly equal numbers of people supporting each side. Those supporting King Von's mother argue that Charleston went too far in attacking a grieving parent. They see his approach as cruel and unnecessary, arguing that she has the right to love and mourn her son without being held responsible for his alleged crimes. Many comments express sympathy for a mother who has lost her child and is now being publicly attacked during her grief. Those supporting Charleston White argue that accountability is necessary even in the face of grief, and that the victims of King Von's alleged crimes deserve advocates who will speak for them when no one else will. They see Charleston's approach as harsh, but necessary to challenge the culture of violence. Glorification in hip-hop. Several high-profile figures in hip-hop have weighed in on the situation. Multiple rappers and industry figures have criticized Charleston White's approach, arguing that attacking a deceased person's mother crosses ethical lines. However, some activists and community leaders have expressed support for Charleston's message about accountability, even if they question his methods. The confrontation has also reignited discussions about Charleston White's broader campaign against what he sees as a glorification of violence in hip-hop culture. Some see him as a necessary voice challenging toxic aspects of drill music culture, while others view him as someone who exploits tragedy for attention and social media engagement. Currently, the situation continues to generate discussion and debate across social media platforms and within hip-hop culture. Charleston White had to privacy following the confrontation, but she has received significant support from within the hip-hop community. Several rappers, industry figures, and fan groups have rallied around her, arguing that Charleston's approach was unnecessarily cruel. The broader implications of the situation extend far beyond just this one confrontation. It has forced conversations about how society should deal with the families of both victims and perpetrators of violence, and what role accountability should play in grief and mourning. Charleston White's confrontational approach has sparked important discussions about victim advocacy and accountability in hip-hop culture, but has also raised questions about the ethics of attacking grieving families. His methods remain controversial, but his core message about accountability resonates with many people who have been affected by street violence. The situation also highlights the ongoing struggle within urban communities to address cycles of violence while supporting families dealing with loss and trauma. Whether Charleston's approach ultimately helps or hinders efforts to reduce violence remains to be seen. The viral confrontation between King Van's mother and Charleston White will likely be remembered as a defining moment in discussions about family responsibility, victim advocacy, and the price of authenticity in hip-hop culture. Both sides made their positions clear, but the broader questions about violence, accountability, and grief remain complex and unresolved. For King Van's mother, this confrontation represented a breaking point where she felt compelled to defend her right to love and mourn her son without being held responsible for his alleged crimes. For Charleston White, it was another opportunity to challenge what he sees as the toxic culture of violence glorification in hip-hop. The footage continues to generate discussion about where the lines should be drawn between holding people accountable and respecting the grief of families dealing with loss. It's a conversation that goes to the heart of how communities should respond when their members commit violent crimes. Ultimately, this confrontation reflects the ongoing tension between different approaches to dealing with violence in urban communities. Charleston White's accountability first approach clashes with more traditional views about family loyalty and support during times of grief. The conversation started by this confrontation is far from over, and it will likely continue to influence discussions about violence, accountability, and responsibility in hip-hop culture for years to come. Both sides have made their positions clear, but the complex questions about grief, justice, and family responsibility that this situation raises don't have easy answers.